Of course I got sick on Switch 2 launch week, but I'm back. Let's open it up. Welcome to Came From a Box. This is Sergio IM, and this time we only have one single colorway, which is black with some blue and red accents on the Joy-Cons and inside the rails. But now the red is in this kind of salmon, which I really like. You can get it by itself, but I went with the limited edition Mario Kart World Bundle, which includes a digital copy of the full game at a discounted price. There's actually two versions of this bundle out there. This one with the printed graphics on the box, and there's one with a Mario Kart World sticker with a code for the game inside. The artwork on the box looks great, very clean, vibrant, and easy to read, but still similar to the Switch OLED, but that huge 2 on the front does help. On the left, it showcases tabletop mode. On the right, handheld mode. And on the back, it shows the Switch 2 docked in TV mode. Underneath, we have what's included in the box, which is just about identical to what came with the original Switch. Let's get inside. On the first flap, we have that quick start guide. Then we're met with the Joy-Cons and console, which is face up so you can easily puncture it with a staple if you're into that kind of stuff. So I'm going to take everything out and we'll go through one thing at a time. Also, this is just going to be a first quick impressions on the hardware. Not going to really talk specs until I get to test it out afterwards for the review, so make sure to follow us on here to keep an eye out for that. First up, we get some very exciting paperwork for health and safety information and usage guidelines. Next, we have an ultra high-speed HDMI cable, a USB-C charging brick and USB-C cable. Then we have our Joy-Con grip, the Switch 2 dock, a pair of Joy-Con 2 straps, followed by the Joy-Con 2 controllers. And finally, the Nintendo Switch 2 console. Compared to the OLED, the Switch 2 is clearly much bigger. With the Joy-Cons attached, it's just slightly smaller than the PlayStation Portal and the Steam Deck. The OLED has a 7-inch display, and the Switch 2 now has a 7.9-inch display. The screen has a very thin edge all around, with a hidden thicker bezel underneath. On it, we have a very thin anti-shatter safety film, so don't try to peel it off. And yes, it is a fingerprint magnet. In terms of protection, it can't do much against scratches or bumps, so I'd highly recommend getting a tempered glass screen protector on it as soon as possible. Then we have the Joy-Con 2 slots on the sides. Each has its own color, along with a plus or minus symbol that goes with the corresponding Joy-Con. And we have that thick connection tab down the center. Up top, same as before, we have a power button, volume rocker, an ambient light sensor, a larger exhaust vent, a 3.5mm audio jack, but now we have a much better game card slot that you can access with your nail at the back and opens with much more clearance. Then we have a new USB-C port up here for charging or accessories. Can't wait to see what they come up for this one. And we also have a microphone next to the card slot. Under the screen, we have new, bigger, and more powerful speakers. And under that, we have our main USB-C port with those cutouts to help it dock. Then we have much larger mesh-covered intake vents. And we have rubber little feet on each side for TV mode. Over on the back, under the kickstand, we have the new microSD Express card slot. And we have a full-length kickstand that uses the same friction mechanism as the Switch OLED. Works great. It opens to roughly a 150-degree angle and now features a thin U-shaped design. And two little things, you can actually use it vertically, which would be awesome for shoot-'em-ups. And you can use it to carry it one-handed, which not exactly sure what you can do with that, but yeah, very handy. These are the new Joy-Con 2. They're bigger, which makes them slightly more ergonomic, but sadly, they didn't add an angled or curved grip, but I'm guessing that's to keep to this thin profile, which helps make them more comfortable when used as individual controllers. And although they are bigger, they're still awkward to use like this. Now, the original Joy-Cons slid into a rail and locked into place with a tiny latch that would wear down or break with time. But now, the Joy-Con 2s attach magnetically with a satisfying snap. And those magnets completely eliminate that issue. They connect to this tab on the inside of the console or accessory, which some worried about getting damaged, but that slot is a perfect fit, which makes it difficult to insert them incorrectly, and it also wiggles in there, which really helps. That connection is also positioned right down the center, so if you accidentally attach them in the wrong orientation, you don't have to worry about damaging that tab. And no, because the pins don't align, they won't connect or charge in this way. Very smart design. That magnetic force has just the right amount of strength to securely hold the controllers, but that also means that there's a chance that it can attract debris in there, so you'll want to keep this slot closed off or sealed. Now to remove them, we have a much larger eject button that works more like a trigger. When pressed, it pushes out a small pin that forces off the top section, making it easy to detach. But being magnets, yes, that means with enough force you could just tear these off, although I wouldn't suggest it. Also, some people have pinched themselves when connecting these, so I tested it out myself, and at least in my case, I couldn't get it to pinch my bulky fingers. I even put a toothpick in there to see if it would snap it, but the magnets aren't strong enough. Either way, just be careful. Scattered around, we still have our plus, minus, home, and capture buttons, but two things. One, the home button no longer has that notification LED around it. And two, we now have a C button on the right Joy-Con to access their new game chat feature. The face buttons are much clickier and very springy. The shoulder buttons wrap much further along the side of the controller, which makes it easy to access with your index finger. The triggers are also longer, very curvy with more room to rest your finger, and this design makes them accessible in mouse mode. But in use, both of these are a bit floaty, a bit loose, and they feel similar to the original. Not much of an upgrade here. Now the analog stick has a larger rounded edge. It has the same soft plastic that's not as grippy as I'd like. And the top is very thin, which makes it look very fragile. Underneath, we now have a colored stick ring, and in use, they feel good. They glide around easily, and they're also very easy to click. But I found that someone apparently had the plastic under the joystick fold up and get stuck, which is something I haven't experienced, but I will be keeping an eye out for. Now, after 7 years of drift issues, Nintendo says they've redesigned the analog sticks with improved durability. You'd think we'd have Hall effect, TMR, or some similar tech in here, but apparently they use the same potentiometer system as the original Switch, which means these are still going to be prone to wear down and cause drift. This was a little shocking to me because it's one of the most expected upgrades, which we didn't get. Very disappointing, but at the very least, they still offer free replacements if you have any issue. And yes, there's already a video of someone dealing with it, but I'd probably chalk this up to a faulty unit. Off the side, we have our pairing button. The player indicator LEDs are now front-facing
and a bit blinding.
Up top, we have the ejection pin, the connection slot below. Our SL and SR buttons are twice as big and much easier to press, which also eliminates the need for pass-through buttons on the straps. They're clicky, but a bit loose and rattly. Then we have the new optical sensor that works with the glidey feet on both ends, similar to that on gaming mice, for mouse mode. Super excited to test out that feature. Now these are the new Joy-Con 2 straps in blue and red. They're still interchangeable and can be used with either Joy-Con, just flip to match the plus or minus symbols. The wrist strap is knitted near the lanyard hole to avoid it rotating around, and it has that same easy to adjust strap lock. The rails, if that's what they're still called, have player LED pass-through, and they're skeletonized to give access to the buttons and optical sensor. They also have their own glidey feet, so you can avoid wearing out the ones on the Joy-Cons, and they're wider, which makes them easier to use in mouse mode. They have these little pegs on both sides, which prevents them connecting in the wrong orientation, unlike the original ones, where you would force them in the wrong way, which would damage them when you pry them off. These new ones attach from the bottom and snap in at the top with those pegs locking them in place. Very secure. You can then remove them with the ejection button, but if you accidentally force them off, the little latch inside is angled, so with enough force, it pops out of the way. This is so much better than the original, which would damage those tiny Joy-Con latches, making it so they can't lock in place. This is the new Joy-Con 2 grip, and it's very similar to the original. The grips are round, but a more contoured shape would have been better, and they're slightly angled, same as before, but I wish they went a bit further here as well. The front is glossy with non-slip rubber pads that give the Joy-Con some space to help avoid scratches. The front section has player LED pass-throughs, and the slots are in red and blue with corresponding plus and minus symbols. Then in the center, we have that connection tab, but without any contacts. It's just plastic to hold the controllers in place, and that also means it doesn't have pass-through charging. So if you want that, same as before, it's sold separately and now has remappable back buttons, which we'll talk about in another video. The Joy-Cons snap right on, and this gives you that traditional gamepad form factor, which is much more comfortable and ergonomic. This is the new Switch 2 dock. It's bigger with a more round design, and it's very plasticky. Doesn't feel as good as the one for the Switch OLED. But it does make use of that space by adding a built-in fan for cooling. On the front, we have that indicator LED when it's connected. Underneath, we have 4 rubber feet and a ton of ventilation. On the back, we have ventilation up top, an open corner for cable pass-through. Same as the OLED dock, this back panel pops right off. And in here, we have even more ventilation and our ports. We have USB-C for power, HDMI out, and 1 for Ethernet. Off the side, same as before, we have 2 USB-A ports for controllers or accessories. Then in the middle, we have the same USB-C docking mechanism with those pegs to help align the console. This slot is wider than the console, which makes it a bit easier to slide in, but same as before, be careful because leaning it towards that front panel can possibly scratch the screen against those plastic ridges inside, which is why you want a screen protector or a dock sock once new ones are released. Once in here, the console still pops up at the top so you can easily grab it and also see that battery charging icon when connected with the screen off. And of course, you can still remove the Joy-Cons off the side. To suit those new Switch 2 upgrades, we now have new cables. First up, a 6-foot HDMI 2.1 cable that supports 1080p at 120Hz and 4K at 60Hz, along with HDR and VRR. And we now have a 60-watt power brick that you can use with the included 5-foot USB-C cable, or with your own if you want something longer. Just make sure it's the right type. Finally, the in-hand experience feels good. The larger Joy-Cons are better than the original, but they're still not very comfortable, and this layout with the right analog stick is still awkward. Grips would make them so much better, so thankfully we have third party for that. But without them, your fingers have nowhere to go, so they tend to just hold the back of the console up, which is a bit odd. But I do like that the weight is well distributed across this bigger size, which makes it feel very balanced in hand. I also love the colors. The black has this speckled look to it, and I like the softer blue and reds they went with. Overall, it feels like a much more mature Nintendo. It's clearly bigger, more powerful, and has a few new features, but it gives the same feeling of that new Nintendo 3DS XL, and that's honestly not a bad thing if you set your expectations.
I just think Super Nintendo Switch would have been a better name.
So this was just the unboxing with some first impressions on the hardware. Yes, I had a lot of nitpicks, but I really like it. And I've said it before, I'm just a sucker for new hardware. So now I'm gonna start tinkering with it, testing everything out, and of course I'll be playing some new games so I can really get a sense of what it's all about. Now I'm gonna hand it off to you. Please let me know what you think of it, along with any questions you may have, or if there's any content you specifically want us to tackle. Comment down below and I'll pick out a few to feature in the next video. Also, if you're trying to hunt one down, check the affiliate links in the description below and follow us across any of our social media channels, because as soon as they restock, I'll post links so you can score one for yourself. Once again, I appreciate your patience. I'm Sergio IM. Thanks for liking and subscribing, and I'll see you for the next box. If you like this video and want to help us out, click that thumbs up button and leave a comment below so we can talk. Now, if you want to go further, subscribe and ding the bell to stay notified whenever we post a new video. You made it to the end, and I just want you to know that you are the reason we do what we do. This is Sergio AM, and I'll see you for the next box.